Hey everyone, this is Christopher Landon, the director of Scream 7, and you're watching Craven Something Scary.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, visitors, subscribers, patrons, and my Cravenites. Welcome to Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Well, guys, we have arrived here. This month is just turning and burning quicker than I can keep track of. And that's a good thing because that means we have another special guest coming. Yes. Tonight, we have the amazing Eliza Coleman, who will be joining us in just a moment. And I just want to tell you guys before we get started, if you have a question or comment for Eliza, start sending those in now. We'll get to as many as possible. I have quite a few questions for her myself. But obviously, if you send those in, I'll keep an eye out and we'll bring those in. If you do send a super chat question or comment, you move ahead to the front of the line. And I assure you, I will get your question in front of Eliza before our stream ends. You do have that option. Now, Eliza's been gracious enough to spend a full hour with us tonight, which is amazing. And we're going to be talking about really two movies in that hour primarily. However, as you guys know, sometimes our conversation takes us down different paths. And I always like to go down there. I don't like to be resistant and pull things back because I think it's just a lot more fun that way. So we'll see what the night entails. But having said all of that, I want you to listen for a minute to some movie titles. All right, listen to this. We're talking about, I had Chuck Borden on last week. You guys remember Scott Leva, excuse me, and a lot of royalty in the stunt world. Well, Eliza is among them, and she is absolute royalty as well. I can say that because her career spans for 30 plus years, and she has been a stunt performer for just an incredible amount of movies and TV shows. And I'm just going to give you some names here before I bring her on. And I want you to let these titles just kind of sink in, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. How about this? Some of these movies, you guys, listen, you know these movies. I'm talking about Casino, Independence Day, Beverly Hills Ninja. That's right, Beverly Hills Ninja, Chris Farley, baby. Planet of the Apes, Ocean's 11, Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, Freaky Friday, War of the Worlds, Mission Impossible 3, Ocean's 13, Inception, The Matrix Resurrections, and I'm nowhere near done with what I could be saying. Silent Night, Deadly Night. Now, if you guys, my hardcore audience, you know that movie. And yes, she even was on that movie. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But also, the two movies we're going to primarily focus on for our hour is Hereditary and Kevin Williamson's Sick, which you guys know I'm a big fan of here, of that movie. And I did a watch party for it, a month ago, maybe, and just thoroughly enjoyed it every time I watch it. It's really great. A lot of great stunts. And you guys who've seen it know what I'm talking about. We've got fire, we've got falls, we've got chases. We've got impalement. That's good stuff. So I can't wait to get into all of that with our guests. So please welcome everyone in the chat. Give a warm round of virtual applause for the one and only Eliza Coleman. Welcome, Eliza.
Hi.
It's a pleasure to have you tonight. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh man, I'm honored, and I'm telling you, there's so many movies we could talk about. And when I just going through that list, it's just, your head explodes. It's incredible. how storied your career is. And what I'd like to do is, before we get into our movie, our Hereditary and our Sick talk tonight, I would like for us to start at the very beginning, because I always find this fascinating and very interesting to understand, where the origin point was, ground zero for your career. And I would love to know, with your amazing body of work that you've done in film and television, I didn't talk about the television shows, film and television. Could you just take us back to the moment where the passion started, and like you knew you wanted to be doing stunt work and stunt coordinating eventually? I'd love to hear your journey.
Well, people always ask me how I got into stunts. And of course, I have this corny response, which is I fell into it. Literally,
I love it.
I was a junior ski racer through college, ski racer through college. And after college, I did a sport called freestyle skiing. So I was on the World Cup freestyle team for the United
Ooh,
States. And
wow.
I had retired from competition, and I got a phone call one day asking if I was interested in hiking up Alta Ski Resort in Utah and to audition for a commercial. I said, sure. And I got cast in a Right Guard deodorant commercial for the Super Bowl
Oh,
and
cool.
skiing, and got my SAG
Yeah.
card. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know about stunt work then.
Hmm.
And I eventually made friends with some people who were stunt people. And after I got that commercial, the only talent agency in Salt Lake City, and I had moved from Vermont to Salt Lake City because of freestyle.
Yeah.
So I had then an agent. They of course they chose to represent me after I got the job.
Naturally, right?
Tricky like that. And
Exactly.
I got a phone call one day asking if I was available to go replace a stunt woman that had gotten injured on a film
Oh.
that was shooting in Park City called The Boogans.
Hmm.
And I showed up. I was available, and I'm just an adventure collector, so I said yes. Didn't really know what I was getting myself into, and I showed up and had to do a stair fall
Oh.
down some basement stairs. The Boogans creature reaches through the stairs and grabs my leg, and I fall down the stairs, and I hit a water heater, and then the whole place goes up in flames. And they handed me a fireproof blanket and said, "Here, just wrap up in this when the fire gets hot."
Oh my
So
gosh.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Oh.
It
Ooh.
was. I literally fell into it. And then my
Oh.
second job was on Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
Tell us
And
about that. I'd love to hear about that.
I did two different bits on Silent Night, Deadly Night. One of them being we were all trapped in a toy store, and the Santa was going around killing everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I doubled an actress that they used to put an axe in the fire extinguisher case.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I grabbed that axe, and just as I'm lifting the axe to bust the window, he shoots me in the back with an arrow.
Oh, yes.
It's
Wow.
it's a funny story because as I told you, that first job, well, so first of all, my very first job, I was skiing. So somebody was
Yeah.
standing at the bottom of the hill doing this when it was time for us to go. And
Okay.
then on the Boogans job, somebody was standing next to me with an earpiece, and they tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Go now." And I
Oh.
opened this door and I go down these cellar stairs. So on Silent Night, Deadly Night, now I've not been in the presence of the actual camera crew per se when
Okay.
they're getting ready to roll. And so I did not know the progression. So as
Mm.
soon as they said roll cameras, I raised the axe. I was quite innocently incorrect, The special effects guy should have known better, but he set the whole thing off.
Oh,
The arrow into my back, the squib with the blood, everything went everywhere before they even called action.
oh no.
it
Oh,
was it was such a low budget movie that they only had one set of wardrobe, so I had to go change so they could wash the wardrobe to reset for the shot. It
my
was really
goodness.
embarrassing.
Oh, wow.
That's when finally somebody told me about the whole progression of rolling cameras and getting camera speed, and then somebody says action, and then that's when you go.
Oh,
So, you know,
that's
just
awesome.
so everybody knows, you don't just come into this business knowing everything. So
Yes.
sometimes, you know, I try to remember that when I meet people who are new in the business, how you can't expect somebody to know something
Yeah,
they don't know they need to know.
absolutely. And then no one told you. And that's like, oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
My
uh,
gosh.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Back in those days, everybody took Polaroids. Every department had a
Mhm.
Polaroid camera, and so they would take a Polaroid of you in your costume or of your hair or whatever. And as I was leaving the set to change my clothes, obviously with my head down, uh, somebody took my Polaroid, and when I came back on set, they had my Polaroid up on the wall, and they were throwing darts at my picture. It was really awful.
Oh no. Oh,
Terrible.
dang.
I never made that mistake again.
Well, how was the director of the movie? Was he cool with you about it, or did he
I
say
don't
much?
remember.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
remember. It was 1980. That was
Oh,
there's
yeah.
there's no longer that got deleted from my hard drive a long time ago.
I listen,
Yeah.
it's funny, you remember the picture,
Mhm.
that sticks in your head because, because I'm sure you were I'm sure it was a difficult moment for you
I was
personally.
embarrassed.
Of
Yeah.
course,
I
yeah.
did, however, I had no designs on at that point. I was just having fun. I was just, as I said,
Yeah.
collecting adventures. I did walk right up to the guy, and he was quite a bit taller than me. And I remember with my finger saying, "You're just a really mean person, and that's just not very nice." I did have my way with him. And then many years later, my husband, who is also in the business,
Mhm.
was stunt coordinating a film called Black Hat with Michael Mann. And I flew to
Okay.
Hong Kong to meet up with him. And when I arrived at the hotel and got out of my cab, the first person I saw was that prop guy from Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh
That
my
many years later, he's
man.
he's very apologetic.
Oh, well, that's good. It should be.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome. What an
that
origin.
still, I was not really intent on being a stunt woman. I don't know what I was thinking I was going to do, but eventually I moved to LA. My now husband of 35 years, I had started dating him, and he was a stuntman by then also.
Okay.
And I just, I just you it my career built just one job at a time. I would meet someone,
Mhm.
and they would say, "Oh, you know, either I had the right look or I had the right
Mhm.
athleticism." And you do one job, and then the next job comes from that word of mouth,
Mhm.
and that's how it grows.
That's wonderful, and that's yeah, it's kinda leading me into the next question I have for you, which was about the progression of your career because, you're doing a lot of stunt work, for very many years, but then you started to grow into the stunt coordinator roles,
Mhm,
and I know, started coming into play,
mhm,
and that's where you're now in charge of the stunt team. You're now calling the stunt shots, if you
mhm,
will.
mhm,
And was that progression, as you mentioned, I like how you said it, you're kind of building blocks.
mhm,
Each time you're building
mhm,
you're building your credibility, your all those attributes that people look for.
mhm,
Um, and you're building a network
mhm.
as well. And so how long did it take for you and not to be like exactly time, but I mean like looking back, did it feel like a long time before you were coordinating stunts and calling the stunt shots, or do you feel like it was a slower progression for you?
In my case, I loved being a stunt woman, and
Mhm.
it's just the best. I loved it, and so
Yeah.
throughout the course of, Doug and I got married. He was stunt coordinating really big shows, and that it's a very consuming job. And so
Yeah,
for
I bet.
me, I loved being a stunt woman because I could, first of all, being a mom is a much harder job than being. It was a little bit. We have two children, and
Oh,
I just loved going to work, and somebody would hand me some clothes to put on, and somebody would make me some food, and somebody would put makeup on me, and then I might create some mayhem and chaos and walk
love
away,
it.
and somebody else would clean up the mess. I mean, it made me just love going home and doing my mom job. And so for a long time, people would ask me when I was going to start coordinating, and my answer was always when I feel like I know enough. I
Okay.
think I think the best stunt coordinators are the ones who have done some stunts. They know they know what it takes. They know what it feels
Yep.
like to hit the ground and take the hard hits.
Mhm.
And not
Yep.
not every stunt performer makes a good stunt coordinator. So
Mhm.
um, it is a process. By the time I got the opportunity to coordinate, um, I was consumed by it. I couldn't think of anything but that show during the entire shoot. And
Nice.
um, and I realized in doing it that I knew some stuff. I
Mhm.
still had plenty to learn, but I realized that I had accumulated a lot of experience, and
Yeah.
that's what I didn't know about camera
Mhm.
placement or lenses, those kinds of things that I learned as I coordinated more. What I did have was a lot of stunt experience. So
Yes, yes.
I knew how things should look. And
Mhm.
yeah, and
Okay.
yeah, it's just been a really great progression. I guess I've probably been coordinating the first feature I coordinated was a film called The Hollow Point,
Okay.
and uh, it was really violent, which that's the currency we
Yeah, it is.
barter in.
Yes.
And I had a ball doing it. I had a ball doing it. And then the more I
Mhm.
coordinated, the more comfortable I got, and the more I was able to think of other things during the time that I was tasked with coordinating
Oh,
it.
good.
So
Yes.
that progression followed too. So yeah.
And in your role when you're coordinating, you've got a team on any given project. Generally speaking, do you find yourself being a coach a lot as well, coaching and obviously some of your team will have varying degrees of experience, right?
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but is there a coach within you as well that you find coming out?
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
Sometimes the job calls for you to hire someone who has a very specific set of skills that are finely honed
Hmm.
because there's no room for any error. And then other times
Yes.
you have action that is where you can put someone in who maybe doesn't have the level of experience, and it gives them the opportunity to get that experience.
Hmm.
And so I do, if, that's where the hiring practices come in. I like to surround myself with great people.
Hmm.
And but I also like to give people an opportunity to get experience that they
Yeah.
wouldn't, because that's how you learn. If you never
Right.
get if you never get the chance to do car work, or you never get the chance to do a high fall, or you never get the chance to do a fight, how are you going to learn? You can
True.
train and train and train, but
Hmm.
there's nothing like being on a set, and it's
Yeah, I bet.
time now, and everybody's watching, and the cameras are rolling, and so
Hmm.
it's that's how people learn. So yes, I do try to nurture. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know that nurture is the correct word, but yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll coach somebody, and sometimes it's coaching somebody because you want the action to portray a specific for it to have a certain emotional
Hmm.
influence. Because
Yes.
the action, stunt work is acting without words.
Right.
We're physical actors, and
Hmm.
so we
I
tell
love
this.
that.
Yeah, we tell the story with our body, and you can
Yeah.
really be very expressive with action.
Very much. And I always, say here on the channel how I love to bring attention to, the stunt community and the performers and coordinators, because the jobs that you all do and you and your peers, they make these movies feel real. Because if without these, amazing professionals in these films bringing these crazy, insane scenes sometimes to life,
Mhm.
it would be dull and boring, and it would not be the same experience. And I admire and respect the stunt community so much, and I just love to meet as many as I can that are in these positions, because your work is important. And I just want you to know, if you don't hear it enough, and I bet you don't, that you matter and it's important, and we appreciate all of those hours you put into this to make these movies come to life for us as a fan.
I
Uh,
appreciate that.
yeah,
We do sometimes have to kind of fight the notion that we're not very smart people.
man.
When in actuality, it really takes quite a bit
Yeah.
of intelligence to do some of these things correctly.
Yes. Gosh, yes.
I, I
Uh,
I can't vouch for every stunt person being intelligent, but there's a lot of really smart people that do this. So
for sure. Uh,
and creative too. There's
yes.
been some really wonderful creative people who have come through the stunt ranks and become
Mhm.
not just stunt coordinators, second unit directors, and
That's right.
then feature film, first unit directors. So
Oh, so awesome.
mhm.
Um, and real quick, Denisha is coming in. Hey, Denisha, with a $2 super chat to support the channel. Thank you for that. Says, welcome, Eliza. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Oh, nice. Thank you, Denisha. Very kind. And we do have a question here from Rock, and it's one of the ones that I was going to ask you as well, but we'll jump into this question. Then I'm going to start asking some of my questions I have for you about Hereditary.
Mhm.
But Rock says, "Hi, Eliza. Very curious to know, what was the most challenging scene or task for you on Hereditary? Cheers."
Hmm. Thank you for that question, Rock. There are a few scenes in Hereditary that were challenging.
Hmm.
Probably one of the first ones that comes to mind. Well, we have a lot of wire work in the show, and um, making Ari's vision come to life, where
Hmm.
Tony Collette is up in the corner of the room,
Man, yes.
um, and where she crawls across the wall and through the
Hmm.
door, where she's upside down, banging her head on the attic.
Yes. Yes.
Those were really challenging. I had an incredible rigging crew, and we filmed in the Park City Film Studios, which is a phenomenal state-of-the-art facility. So we had all of the right tools to rig it correctly,
Hmm.
and Rocky Dickey was my key rigger, and we just worked it out. My daughter, who is a stunt woman, her name is Whitney Coleman. She
Oh,
she doubled Tony Collette on this.
okay.
A lot of that work that you see is Whitney, but also Tony spent quite a bit of time in a harness.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Man,
And
that's
the scene where she, you know, gets
yeah.
that's all
Yeah.
that's all Tony. It had to be. There was no
Yeah.
option, because the way that we shot it, this is the money, and it had to
Yeah.
be. So yeah,
Whew,
yeah.
man. And that, and again, that kind of leads me to, because I was going to talk about Tony and I mean, how much she just owned that role, and it's just amazing performance. And um, that scene, is, oh man, the attic scene. Uh, that how what was it like working with her? Because I'm sure that you were doing a lot of well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Let me ask you the question instead of assuming it. Was there a lot of rehearsal walkthroughs for that scene with the wire, going and all that? Um, what was the setup, I guess, leading to that
Well,
sequence? So the attic.
by the time we shot that scene, we had already done her levitated in the living room, and
Mm-hmm.
we were uh, quite well into our shooting schedule
Okay.
when we shot that. So if I remember correctly, um, we all came onto the set and we talked about what was going to happen.
Okay.
And then we shot it. We didn't put her up in the air until we were really ready to shoot, but we definitely talked through all of the
Mm-hmm.
parts of it. I mean,
Got you.
the prosthetics were pretty complicated for that.
I
So
bet.
yeah. Hmm.
Wow, it's such an intense sequence of the movie, and just I mean, just every time I see that, man, I just get like, oh, I don't know, it gets you, it gets under
Hmm.
your skin
Hmm.
as it's supposed to, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Um, but my gosh, what an amazing job you did and your team to
Well,
bring those scenes to life like
it,
that.
it's a collaboration. Everybody
Hmm.
has to be in it. Tony was playing a it's a very dark place that she was. So
Hmm.
we didn't do a lot of chit chat. She was very, um, I wouldn't say she was always in character,
Okay.
but there wasn't a lot of levity around her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but but
I
she was
yeah.
she was great. You know,
Yes.
Ari wrote that script, uh, obviously it's an incredible script, but he didn't really understand how you make those things mechanically happen.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, Once or twice, I did ask him if he would mind getting in the harness so we could put him up on the wires. So he,
I
what it was, I never got him there,
was
but
gonna say, did he do it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's a
yeah.
lot, right? That's a lot physically. That's a lot on I'd
Oh,
imagine on
it's harder than you can imagine until you do it. Yeah,
yeah.
it can be very uncomfortable. So you don't want to you don't want to leave somebody hanging up there for a long time.
No.
Mhm.
Wow. So while we're on Hereditary, I think maybe let's stay here for a little bit because um I'd kind of like to get an idea of if you could kind of walk us through the project for you as the stunt coordinator of the movie, kind of look behind the curtain. What did that look like for this project in terms of, how large was your crew that you needed? Because there's a lot going on, as we're just talking about with the ropes and all that, wires rather. So can you just kind of let us know what was your approach when you got the position, you got the role, and you got the script? I'm assuming, and you start doing your game plan, right? Is that kind of your method? You start figuring
Mhm.
out, I need this, 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 this.
Mhm.
So kind of let us know what that's like for you as the stunt coordinator.
Well, my interview with Ari and the producers uh, took place. I had read the script,
Okay.
and at the end of that meeting, the UPM, who was somebody who invited me to come interview, he called me and he said, "I'm not sure if that was an interview or a production meeting because
Oh.
we got into the discussion. They said, "Oh yeah, we have a location. It's this great house," and I said, "Oh really?
Mm.
Are they going to let us drill into their walls because this this show has a ton of rigging?" And that
Hmm.
opened up a whole conversation. You know,
Wow.
if Aria was like, oh, I was like, yeah, you have to get them up in the air somehow and get them to, get people to stay in the air. So,
Mm,
um, educating him on that, and then so that took the discussion. Now, sure, you can build, a rigging inside a house, but now you have to hide it. So
gosh.
then it was they had to change
Mhm,
what they were thinking about in terms of rigging, and even had they chosen a stage space that wasn't a proper film studio, we
mhm.
would have run into the same thing. So
Yeah.
so so they had an exterior location, and they ended up using the film studios and building all of
Ah,
the entire interior of the house inside the film studio.
okay.
And that was how we managed to do everything.
I see.
All of
Okay.
that rigging. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Um, and about how many would you say stunt professionals did it take to pull off that movie on your team?
Oh, probably 14 of us.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
had, let me see. I had a double for Peter, a double for Charlie.
Okay.
I had, um, see, stunts. So let's see. I had my fire crew.
Mhm.
Um, and then I had my rigging crew. So fire crew was two guys and myself,
Okay.
which is another. So when we get to the fire, I have a great story about that.
Okay.
Um, uh, yeah, I mean, a double for Charlie, a double for Peter, a double for Tony Collette,
Mhm.
and then that was it. My safety crew. So,
Yeah,
mhm,
okay.
mhm. So
Wow.
14, including myself. Yeah.
Wow. That's a pretty big team though. That's a lot of folks to pull this off. I mean, that's because there's so much going on. Now
Yeah.
I'm sure you've worked with more and
Oh, yeah.
less. I'm sure,
Yeah.
both.
It's actually a pretty small team.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rigging wise, I had 3 or 4 guys, 2 guys for the fire, and then, my doubles. So,
Yeah. Okay.
mhm,
All
yeah,
right.
pretty
Ooh.
streamlined. Mhm.
Well, speaking of that, and streamlining, how long was that shooting schedule for for the film? Do you not remember how many weeks or days you
Uh,
guys had to do it?
if I remember correctly, it was a 28-day shoot.
Wow.
Pretty fast.
Yeah, that is.
Mhm.
That's very quick.
Yeah.
Um,
It was not
and
it was not a big budget film.
no, no, it's true. It was not. It was, and A24, I think they tend to kind of keep it lean and mean, on a lot of their projects. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, you
Yeah,
guys
I
must
mean,
have been
and,
working
the
pretty.
people that I
Yeah, yeah.
well, the people that I work with, generally with stunts, it's pretty easy to convince the people that are spending the money that they need to give you
Hmm.
what you need to do the job. Um,
Yeah,
Stunts is not some place where you want to skimp.
true.
You need what you need, and
Hmm.
so I don't overdo it, but I certainly don't underdo. I don't you know I don't
Yeah.
I don't budge when it comes to safety and having
Mhm.
the team that I need.
Yes, it's like
Mhm.
you say. There's ways to cut. Not safety. We're talking about the safety of actors and stunt workers and
Yeah.
everybody. That's. I mean, there's nothing more precious than life, and you can't mess with that. You got to be safe.
It's also about the end product, what you see on the screen is what we bring.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I guarantee if short cut or corner cuts were cornered, I guess I'm trying to say,
Mhm.
in that area,
Mhm.
it would be noticeable. Um, it would be, we would know it. There'd be things that it wouldn't come off the same.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
generally what happens if they can't if a film can't afford to do something, then they'll start changing what they are going to do.
Yes. Yes.
They'll eliminate things as opposed to try and do everything uh, half
Hmm.
crooked. So
Yes.
mhm. Half cracked.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Ari. Ari asked her, and what would you describe, or how would you describe what it was like to work with him with that relationship?
He and I had a great relationship. Uh, he he I think he relied on me.
Hmm.
I did have to. He did like to do a lot of takes, and
Okay.
so um, that's sometimes a problem with stunts. Um,
Yeah.
and so, but he was great. You know, he knew that I wanted to give him his vision, and so we find that medium ground between him wanting to, let's do it, let's change this camera position, let's change this lens, let's do this. At a certain point, sometimes you're going to be damaging somebody by doing that. So
Yeah.
I feel like we had a great working relationship. I would happily work with him again. He
Oh,
did
that's
not
good.
he did not know much about action going into it, and I think he
Hmm.
probably learned a lot. But there were a few scenes where I had to say, Ari, how many seconds of this are you going to use? Like, for example, primarily when my daughter was upside down banging her head on the
Gosh.
ceiling.
Yes.
Yeah, that ceiling was padded, so she's hitting her forehead on that. But
Mm.
then that your head is really heavy, so her head
Yeah.
coming back with her literally upside down. She was upside down
Oh,
on the ceiling, um,
gosh. Oh.
and we rolled for about 60 seconds on those takes. Really,
Oh.
a really, really long time. So
Wow.
after like take three, um,
Yeah.
I was not feeling like a good mom.
Oh.
She's a trooper. She's a really tough cookie.
She must be.
Yes.
My gosh.
Yeah. Both
And
of
then
both
when
of
you
my both of my kids are. I have a son. We have a son also. He's
uh,
phenomenal as well. Yeah.
aw,
Mhm.
man, that's I
But
mean,
yeah, Ari,
yeah.
Ari, Ari was great. He very much knew what he wanted to see,
Yep.
um, and he
Mhm.
knew the story. I suspect that it was a bit of a personal journey for him.
Oh, that's
Mhm,
awesome. Wow.
mhm, mhm,
Now I do have to ask about, I know we kind of already touched on the attic part there. I think so we covered that pretty well. But there is another scene, and you probably know which one I'm going to ask about, probably. And it is, of course, what would become Charlie's death scene,
mhm.
with the
Charlie's
car.
head.
Yes, that scene, that was so shocking and unexpected. I remember watching it with a couple of folks. People, we watched it together, and we were like, when that happened, all of us were just silent. We were just like, just I can't believe what just happened. Like I'm in shock.
Mhm,
And how did you feel when you read the script and knew that you were going to have to figure out how to pull this scene off and all of the sensitivity around this scene?
mhm.
What were your thoughts initially when you were thinking about that?
Well, that touches on a point. As a stunt coordinator, you get a script, and it's your job to take the written words from the page and make them into a reality.
Yes.
So uh, that conversation developed with Ryan Roundy, our special effects coordinator,
Okay.
and we had to find the right location, and we had to decide how to shoot it. Because
Mhm.
a lot of times how you want to shoot the scene determines what you do, how
Okay.
you how you execute it.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to find telephone poles that are close to the road, and a lot of times there's the road, there's a ditch, and there's a telephone
Mhm.
pole. So
Yeah.
we actually installed our own telephone pole.
Okay.
And then I had an excellent stunt driver, Brett Smurs, drive the car,
Okay.
and a phenomenal stunt woman from New York, Jennifer Lamb, doubled Charlie. And so we got all those run-up shots
Ooh.
of her with her head out the window. And then we had a dummy, and
Okay.
Brett. So we had to position the dummy out the car, and Brett had to actually get that close to that telephone.
Ooh.
So
Wow.
that's one of those things where you hire somebody who can
Mhm.
do that. I knew that Brett had the skill to get that
Yes.
close to the pole without hitting the pole, and
That's skill, all right. That is.
yeah. Yeah. So that's not a place where you want to coach somebody that doesn't have a
No.
experience, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
Okay.
yeah, we were filming that at night. I remember that we were kind of running out of time, and it was
Mm.
that whole stressful thing of getting it done.
Yes.
The sun's coming
Ooh.
up, and
Oh, no. Yeah,
yeah,
you
that's
can't stop the sun, can you? You can't do
no,
anything
you
about
can't.
that.
No, you can't. You can't. But yeah, that's a crazy scene, Charlie.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's just so shocking and stunning, and Mayanne here in the chat, she makes a good point. And I agree. I think it does. It sets the tone. You realize when that happens, this movie is gonna be dark. We're gonna go to some dark places because that's how we're starting. And
Mhm. Mhm.
wow,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, kudos to your team and everyone involved because that scene is so powerful. And if it didn't look real, it would take you out of this scene completely. But it looked
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that I like to do is make it real.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
the actor that played Peter, I don't know, I'm blanking on his name, Alex Wolf.
Oh, yes.
He had a tough job too. I mean,
Hmm.
uh, he had to play that character that just is like crazy. And
Yeah.
Alex had done, he had played the guy, that movie about the guys that did the Boston Marathon bombing.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
He had
Yes.
played that, but uh, and the stunt guys on that had to work with him to teach him to drive, and then I coached him even more to drive because he grew up in New York City and was not a driver.
Oh, okay.
He couldn't
Yeah.
drive. So
Hmm.
he came into this. We spent a little
Wow.
bit of time in a parking lot, just enough so that I could get in behind the wheel and keep him safe. But
Yes.
yeah,
Wow. My gosh.
those were tough roles.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were saying the movie is so heavy. There's just a heaviness that you feel when you watch this movie, and that's how well it's executed.
Yeah.
Because, I'm like, if you're feeling this way, that tells you that everyone involved is nailing their roles.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, you wouldn't feel it. It would take you out of it. And all these scenes, Eliza, and I'm thinking about it now. And I'm like, it's stressing me out. Like just replaying this movie in my head.
Mhm.
It's just stressful to watch.
Mhm.
And when and when um whenever Peter discovers his dad's charred body, and this is what begins the addicts, the whole thing. I mean, seeing Tony absolutely like insane because she was possessed,
Mhm.
and it is frightening. It's horrifying,
Mhm.
and it just gets worse each frame. It
Yeah.
just gets like progressively worse, Eh,
Everybody disintegrates one way or another.
yes, that's
Mhm.
right. It's
Yeah.
so
Oh, yeah.
wow. My
Mhm.
gosh. Now I have to ask you before we move on to to 6. I want to get into 6. I know we don't have a ton of time left. We still got some time, but I don't want to. I'm always very respectful of your time. So let's talk about the fire scene. We got to at least talk about that one. Otherwise, I would be remiss. So
Mhm.
can you let us know your thoughts again when you're seeing this in the script and
Oh,
you
sure.
got to figure this thing out?
Oh, 100%. That the fire was pretty straightforward for me. So first of all, I've been involved with quite a bit of fire in my career, and
Okay.
uh, there's a guy in the business, Mark Chadwick, who is one of the premier fire guys, and he and I worked together. Oh gosh, um, the movie Aviator, when Howard
Yeah.
Hughes crashes his plane. That
Mhm.
so Mark and I set that fire up together. Uh, what was the figure skating movie? Um,
Oh.
Blades of Glory.
Oh, Blades of Glory, of
That
course. Yes.
the bear, the dancing bear. We set him on fire. So Mark and I had this ongoing joke of that he's always the bride, never the bridesmaid, because the person doing the fire gets all the gets all the notoriety, right?
That's
So
right.
I get this script and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And I called Mark up and I was like, how would you like to be the bride? And he's like, what? I was like, how about we set you on fire?
Yeah.
So
Oh.
yeah, so he doubled Gabriel on that and I set him up and I fueled him and I think I did a pretty good job because
Yeah.
he
Oh,
was
yeah.
we had the entire local fire department there and
Okay.
we did it inside the studio and
Oh.
I think that they were just in disbelief that we didn't burn the whole place down.
Yeah, I bet. And the studio will let you do it. That's impressive. Of course, I'm assuming sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Well,
But
I mean, I had to be
I
very
mean,
forthcoming with that and just,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
I suppose it's a leap of faith, but
Sure.
I came into it again. I came
Hmm.
into it with a lot of experience. Mark had
Absolutely.
a lot of experience.
That's right.
We really had it under control, but I wanted
Mm.
it to be a really big burn, and it
Yes,
was.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
fantastic. Yes.
Mhm, mhm,
And I bet he was relieved. I mean, I can't imagine, what it feels like to allow someone to set you on fire, like to willingly do that. And I always say this, I know I was not given the DNA to be a stunt
mhm.
performer. It's just not in my blood. It's not in my when I see these high falls and I see any number of stunts, you name it, I'm like, I admire this person so much that they're willing to do this and take the chance. And um but I was talking recently with Chuck Borden,
Mhm.
and Chuck is a great guy,
No, Chuck, yeah,
and
great guy.
I met him last week, and we chatted for quite some time. And he said something that I thought was right on point, is that there's a difference between being a stunt performer and a daredevil. And a stunt performer
Oh,
does
yeah.
it safely.
Mhm.
The daredevil just does it. And I thought that was really a great way to process the
Yeah, I
business.
mean,
Like, yeah.
we're risk takers, no doubt.
Oh,
But
for sure.
what we're doing, if it's done correctly, is we're taking a calculated risk.
That's
And
right.
it's all about proper planning. And what you
Mhm.
try to do is you always have to look at it from the standpoint of what could go wrong. So
That's right.
you don't just look at how to execute the action of the
Yeah.
stunt. You look at what could go wrong
Mhm.
while you're doing that too. It's important to keep that in mind and try to eliminate any factors that would
Yeah.
facilitate that. So,
Yeah.
it's a it requires some thought. Yeah, we're not it's not a willy-nilly endeavor. Quite
No,
honestly, our first responders have to step into situations where they have no control over the situation.
that's true.
My job as a stunt coordinator is to create a controlled atmosphere to do these things.
Yes.
You
That's
can't
right.
always eliminate all of the risk, but
Mhm.
you certainly can create a controlled environment, um,
Mhm.
to give yourself the best chances for the best possible outcome.
That's right. Yes, indeed. And
Mhm.
I have to ask you this, on a scene like that burn scene, and we got another burn scene in Sick too.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, and that was amazing. But
That was so
uh,
great.
I'm telling you, it's so good. It's so well done.
Uh-huh.
But I have to just say, when you're watching, when you're there on set and it's time
Mhm.
to go, you know, for it's the green light, it's time to go,
Mhm.
and they light them up, the flames are burning. How do you feel in that moment? Is your adrenaline pumping? Is your or are you so focused on like making sure everything's right, safety's ready to go if you call them? Like,
Mhm.
just kind of help me understand as the coordinator, you're overseeing all of this. What
Mhm.
is your how do you feel in the moment that filming it?
Uh, Generally, I would say by the time I say we're ready to go, we're ready to go, and I'm calm and I'm ready and I'm committed.
Mm-hmm.
We're in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have done some work, not fight the fire, not the firework specifically, but I have done work where once the stunt is completed, I'm quite relieved. Because,
Yes.
that's the thing as the stunt coordinator, you try to do everything you can to set it up correctly, to hire the right people, but at a certain point,
Yeah.
it's go time, and
Mm-hmm.
all I can do is let it be, is have it be executed. um,
Yeah.
in that moment. So
Mm-hmm.
that's sometimes very stressful.
Oh gosh.
But
Yes, I can imagine.
with the fire, um, we're pretty dialed on it. Yeah.
I bet. I bet you're zoned in.
Mhm.
I bet it's very intense. And I'm just curious, the last thing I'm gonna ask you about, and I guess kind of applies to the sick fire scene too, because in general, when it's something so potentially dangerous, I mean, there's no doubt about it. A lot of things, anything can happen, as you said. Because some things are out of your control.
Mhm.
So, but when you're in the moment and Ari says action
Mhm.
and you're going,
Mhm.
do people leave you alone? Do they let you just be zoned in, not distracting you?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
is it like because you're in your zone, right? So I call it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point where if anybody has any questions, obviously, if
Yeah.
anybody has any questions, they need to bring them to me.
Mm-hmm.
But we do a safety meeting, and that's
Okay.
where people can ask questions and put it together. Once we do that safety meeting and we go into the execution phase of the stunt,
Mm-hmm.
everybody has a job to do, and they
Yep.
better do it. They better do it right. So, you
Yeah.
generally will check to make sure that camera department is ready, that all of the other surrounding departments are ready,
Okay.
and then we go.
Nice. Ooh,
Mhm,
wow.
mhm,
Well, that's exciting. It's
mhm.
exciting stuff, and I admire and respect it so much because I could never do it. I could just couldn't do it. Uh,
Y- y-
and like I said, I just couldn't, Eliza. It's just, but it's just but again, I go back to, and I always remind my audience consistently to make sure that when you're watching these films, that you're really, really giving respect to these folks that
mhm,
are making these scenes
mhm.
real. That's what they're making it real.
Well, that's nice of you, and I appreciate that. But if I'm doing my job, if we're doing our job correctly,
Hmm.
when you see it, I don't want to take you out of the story.
Right.
I want what we're bringing to it to just to keep you in the story.
Yes. Yes.
That's when I know we've done a good job. If
Yes.
you're watching something and you go, "Oh, wow, great stunt." Well, then you just lost the story, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I
True.
like it when people don't really think about it too much until maybe afterwards, like, "Oh, wow, how did
Yes.
you do that?" But
That's
what
right. Yeah.
for me, my personal goal is for the viewer just to be completely engulfed in the
Mhm.
story. I want you to be in it till the
Yes.
yeah, till the very end.
100%. And
Mhm,
that is certainly the case with Sick and Hereditary. And just speaking of these two movies,
mhm.
100% the case. Um, it's kind of like hiding in plain sight. You're hiding in plain sight,
Mhm.
and it's like a magician. You don't even see the trick.
Mhm.
You're just seeing the result,
Mhm.
and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Um,
we're telling a story.
that's right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, let's move real quick, guys. We got about another maybe 10 minutes, 5, 10 minutes. Is that all right, Eliza? Is that
I can
okay?
give you as much time as you want. I don't have anything else going tonight, so
Oh,
I'm
wonderful. Okay.
so
Well, then maybe we'll go let's go another 15 minutes then. That way we can get a lot more questions about sick in because I'm very excited to talk about sick as well.
sure.
This is now sick. I got to tell you, I'm a slasher guy. That's my, as you may have noticed in my background, the knife in the air.
Mhm.
This is kind of like my thing. And
Mhm.
so, and Kevin Williamson, I mean, I have the utmost respect. What a brilliant writer. My gosh, I could talk all night about his work. The Scream films, all those are my number. It's my favorite franchise. But whenever I heard that he was co-writing this movie with Caitlin and he's producing it, I said, "This Kevin Williamson's back with a slasher. Yeah, hello, sign me up."
Mhm.
And I've seen it twice now, and or was it 3 times? Maybe 3 times. Yeah, I think it's 3 times.
Mhm.
And I enjoy it thoroughly every time I watch it. I still feel the intensity, the suspense. Um, the writing is so well done. And so when it comes to Sick, I'd have to ask you, number one, what would you, or how would you describe? You talked about Ari Aster and kind of what that felt like. What did it feel like making this movie? I know Kevin didn't direct it, but um, because John Hyman
John
Hyman's
Hyams.
directed it. Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Um, but what was it? What was your experience making it? How did it feel on set
Mm.
when you guys were making this movie?
Well, so John Hyams, our director, and Ron Levy, our DP, director of photography, had worked together before. So
Okay,
they had a very good working pattern with each other. It was actually quite
nice.
hilarious. And John especially has a very good um, knowledge of action and shooting action.
Okay, great.
So that was just super helpful. He
Yes.
he was brilliant. He was really they were really great to work with. The
Okay.
combination of them, and it shows in the film. I think the
Mm,
action is really good.
me too.
And
It's yeah, great pacing.
mhm,
Um, whether they're running outside, falling off the roof,
mhm,
like I mentioned earlier, being impaled. I mean, just it's all of the above and more is
mhm,
so it's you feel it, because it's just you can't manufacture feelings unless they genuinely connect to you
mhm,
is the way I look at it.
yeah,
And when I watch this movie, Eliza, I feel it. Like I feel
yeah,
what these girls are feeling. Like, oh
mhm,
my gosh, get out of there. You're just in the moment.
mhm.
And yeah, just I mean, it's again,
I
I really like it.
loved the way they really got in the fights with the camera. You feel like you're
Yeah,
in that fight. At
you
least that was
do.
my yeah, that was how, and I love that. Um, and yet you
Yes.
still, so I don't like really quick shots where you go like, what just happened, where it's just a blur. I felt like
Mm,
John and Ron shot it in such a way that you saw the movements of the fight, but it was dirty and you were in it. You were really in the middle of it. So yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Gideon and
Mhm.
Beth did a
Uh-huh.
great job. Um, those those two actresses.
Yes.
And yeah, it was great. It was a great crew. We shot that in 6 weeks, and
Okay.
it was nearly all nights. And I have to say,
Yeah.
the entire crew had to really keep. You have to really keep your spirits up because nights are tough. It's it's
Yeah.
yeah, at least for me.
I can imagine.
Yeah, working that many nights, but so everybody was just great.
Yeah. So was it kind of like a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. type schedule that you
Yep.
guys kept?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we shot it in June, so of course, you know, the longest days of the year, so we had short nights. Um, I did I did, suggest to them that our attacker, um,
Hmm.
was cast as is a stuntman. Chris Reed,
Okay.
um, plays that attacker, and then he also did the doubling for the actor that's the dad. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah, so he doubled him. So that actor, I forgot his name too, but great actor. So yeah, Chris Reed actually
Hmm.
um, did that acting part because
Ah,
it's just all stunts. I mean, it to me
yeah.
it made sense, and John was completely on board with that, and Chris did an amazing job. So mhm,
Yes. Oh
mhm,
gosh.
mhm.
And you mentioned how it take basically it was a night shooting pretty much for the whole movie.
A lot of nights.
Um, did you find it other than the natural, what I consider the natural challenge of being tired, you're going against your normal sleep schedule and all these other things that are involved there. But do you find night shooting to be more challenging in general, especially when you're doing outside locations, when you're trying to
Uh,
deal with you may not see all the, oh, there's a hole over there, don't fall down. That just that kind of stuff. Is it
oh,
a
sure.
factor? Hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Even just the crew can get hurt
Yeah.
walking around, you know, out
Hmm.
around the set, things that you don't see that you go bump in the night. Um,
Right.
you know, the thing about that show is that we were on all night, so there wasn't a lot of flip-flopping back and forth between days and nights. So in a way, everybody just got
Mm,
into their routine
okay.
and you know, and you just, you know, you eventually learn to sleep and you eventually learn to
Yeah.
it's really hard for me to get more than 5 hours of sleep when I'm working nights. It's hard for me to change my rhythm, my
I bet.
my circadian rhythm or whatever you call it. So,
Of course.
mhm.
Did you get done with that 6 weeks and like, you know what? I'm going to bed for a week. Nobody bother me. Well, yeah, I'm going to get my schedule back on normal.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I think I might have said something like, "The next time I get a script, I'm gonna pay attention to if it says night all through the script."
Yes.
You know?
Uh,
It was a great experience,
mhm.
and I would have to say that that comes from the top down. The producers were great to us. Um,
Nice, nice.
John was great to us, and you know,
Mhm.
um, it makes a big difference. You have to treat your crew good. Um,
Yes.
you know, there's a whole bunch of people that work really really hard to to make a film, and you never see what they do. I mean, you see what they do by the finished
Mhm.
product, but you don't see
Yeah.
how hard all of those people are working. And we had a great crew. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Mhm.
good to hear.
Mhm.
And again, I think it contributes to a great movie. It's like, the end result is a reflection of its parts. I just really
Mhm.
believe that. And um, this is no exception. And you mentioned earlier about, Gideon and Beth, and it seems like, again, this is part of the beauty of it, as just a viewer, but it really looks like they're doing a lot of their own stunts, a lot of their own fight sequences and things of this nature. Is that true, or was it more stunt doubles slipped in there than we
I'm sorry,
recognize?
I lost you there for a minute. I
Oh,
lost
you're
you.
okay.
What'd you say?
Sure. No, no. So
Gideon
just
and Beth.
talking about, yeah, about Gideon, yeah, exactly, Gideon and Beth. It seems like they did a lot of their own stunts in the fighting sequences and things. Is that true, or was it a great case of bodies doubling magic that tricked us?
We had great doubles for them,
Okay,
and the doubles did. I mean, the doubles did the stunts.
got
Uh,
you.
Beth and Gideon did a lot of running barefoot.
Okay,
Gideon did have to paddle that raft a bit,
I
and
was wondering about that.
had to jump in the water. Her stunt double also did some paddling.
Okay,
Um, but you know, let's see, the high fall when Beth falls off the roof. That's
yes.
her stunt double. Um, I like to I like to use the actors as much as I can, and that is always determined by their willingness,
Mhm.
their physicality,
Yep.
and some actors want to do it, and some actors are more than happy to have somebody else do that for them. So you just kind of play.
Yes.
So that final fight with the girls in the barn.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So the way that we did that, so we shoot a master with the 2 stunt doubles,
Okay.
but then we'll turn around and we'll put the actress with a stunt double, so that we get the face shot, but she's working with the stunt double, and then we switch.
Okay.
We switch.
Ah,
Mhm,
got you.
mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. It's like that face shot, and then all of a sudden there's the double, and we don't
And
even it's
she's in it. She's in it, but
right.
it's our actress. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Oh, I love that. I love the secrets of the
Well,
tricks of the trade. It's good stuff. And
well, that's the poetry between the stunt coordinator and
yeah,
the camera,
mhm,
um, so
that's right.
we all work together. It's not just me. It's
Sure.
the camera depart we really need the camera department to help us to make these things look good. So, mhm.
For sure. Like you said, everyone plays a part, right? To
Oh,
come
yeah.
to make the whole thing
Mhm,
come together.
mhm.
Uh, Now, I'm just curious, was there a particular stunt sequence in the movie that John wanted multiple takes of before he's like, "Hey, I got the shot." Like I'm thinking of, just curious if there was one in particular maybe that stands out, or was it pretty
My
consistent?
recollection of John was that, like Ari, he knew what he wanted. He also knew when he had what he wanted and when he
Okay.
had what he needed. And because
Hmm.
we were shooting on the shortest nights of the year, um, he did not belabor
Yeah.
things. If we did it and it was good, we moved on.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. Well, that's good. That's a sign of a confident director. That's
Mhm,
awesome.
mhm.
Now, I do have to ask you about just a couple more questions here, if we could, about sick. Um, a couple of death scenes, and I just would love to know, like, what the measurement was between stunt performers and cast members here, kind of like we were touching on just a second ago. But the first one is the DJ Cole, where he's stabbed repeatedly and impaled through the back by Jeb with that coat rack. Now, if you could tell us, like, what was the structure of that sequence, and how did that all work or come together?
Uh, to the best of my recollection. Okay. Uh, that was a tough scene. We wanted it to look really good. And
Mhm.
we went through some some variations on that from what we initially thought that it would be. And what they ended up using in the final cut, I thought was very good.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Yep.
yeah. They,
Same.
yeah. The special effects makeup was great. I mean, the thing coming through his chest, it was like, ah,
Ooh, man.
yeah.
It's one of those, like,
But we had,
oh
but
moments
we
where
rigged, mhm, yeah, but we rigged him so that when you see that close up of his feet not touching the ground, we had to rig him
yes.
up off the ground to make that happen. So,
Oh,
Benny Alexander was my rigger on that. He did a great job also. So,
oh, I
and
love that scene.
that was a situation where we were actually able to work with the framework of that log house
Mhm.
to do that. So yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget that. The girls are in the truck. They're like, "Come on, come on." And then all of a sudden he's walking out the front door, and as you look there and you see the feet off the ground, and it's like, this is so messed up. It's like a puppeteer with this puppet,
Um,
and
and the look on his face.
oh gosh, yes, I know. Oh,
I
it's
know.
woo. I'm
I know. He did a
telling
great
you,
job. He really
he
did a great
did.
job. Yeah. Mhm.
He did.
Yeah.
Now another death I have to ask about also is that was Jason, the Jason kill when it's pushed off the balcony onto the mounted deer head,
Into the antlers.
the antlers. Oh my gosh. I think like just I mean I don't, obviously I don't do stunt work, I don't do coordinating,
Mhm.
but I'm just thinking to myself as like, if I had a script in front of me that said this is what happens, I would be really excited about figuring that out and helping to figure that out.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Well
and so
then,
how did you what was your approach on that one?
well, you get the script and you're like, oh, okay. And then you see the location and you're like, oh, well, we're
Mhm.
doing this inside a real house. I mean, this
Yeah.
location was not on a stage. This was a real house. So
Ooh.
yeah, it's stitched together. We shot it in pieces. So we shot the fall
Okay. All
into
right.
a catcher, and then the that's a special effects visual effects with the antlers going through the actor.
Got you. Okay.
It's really good,
Ooh,
right?
really good. It
Yeah,
seriously is.
yeah. And
It's very memorable.
I'll tell you just another little thing: how his mouth is full of blood and he's laying
Yeah.
on his back. That's really
Mhm.
hard to do. Having all of
Ooh.
that liquid in your mouth and you're laying on your back and not
Oh,
choke on it.
yeah. Gosh,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
strange thing about that. That's true.
Mhm.
Oh man. Just great scenes, and I have to do I have to talk about, just for a second, the burn scene with Pamela at the end of this movie. And whenever, and I know that some of this probably is done post production, of course, but I don't recall seeing anyone walk that long and on fire down that street. And it's like, when are they going to cut? When are they going to like
Mhm.
get this person fire extinguished or
Mhm.
something, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I have to ask you, was that, you know, real? Was that all real time,
That's
or
all
was there
real. That is
there
all
was
that is
no
all real.
manipulation?
That's right, and I
Oh,
wanted her to come out of the barn and fall down and get back
yeah.
up and run.
Ah,
That was planned, and,
okay.
that burn was done by Whitney Coleman, my daughter. So,
It
again,
really
people were like,
oh,
"Oh, you're gonna light your daughter on fire." That was another really good mom moment, but maybe in some ways, I mean, how much more confident could you be? So, but yes, that's a very long burn. It
yes.
was a very
I was
long.
like looking at my watch metaphorically thinking, they got to put this fire out. Like, how I've never seen it go this
Yeah.
long.
And
Um,
big flames. Big big flames. That was
yes.
not, that what you saw in the movie was real fire. It it kind of looks a little bit fake, but it was real.
Man,
We
that
we
is
we
impressive.
we lit her up. So,
Literally, literally.
mhm.
Oh my gosh. Now, how does she feel when finally you hear cut and they're getting the fire out? Was she, I mean, what's her reaction when she's coming out of there? What was that
She
like?
was she was stoked. She loved it.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, she loved it.
Her now talking about an adrenaline rush.
Mhm.
The person on fire, their adrenaline's got to be, because your brain has to be saying this isn't right. Like, this shouldn't be. You're not supposed to be burning. And
Yeah,
I know they're
yeah,
professionals, and I know you train, but
yeah.
like, I mean, can you give us just a little insight to what that feels like for those folks who are in those burn scenes in the moment? I mean, is it,
Fire can be claustrophobic.
yeah.
Um, but generally, the people that like to do fire burns just
Hmm.
love to do the fire burns. I mean, it's
Okay.
uh, I don't feel like I'm answering your question, but
Oh, yeah, that's all right. I mean, they have to be, obviously, like you say, someone who does that, they're comfortable to some degree doing it.
they should be
yes.
and their demeanor should be very zen.
Yes.
It's a very peaceful kind of
Mm-hmm.
approach to it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going in and you're going to be fully uh, absorbed in what you're doing. So
Yes.
yeah. Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm.
Well, tell your daughter, amazing job. Tell her that we thank her for her amazing work because
Hmm.
it's amazing. It is truly amazing.
Um,
And
I actually do have some behind the scenes from that. Uh,
oh, okay.
but I mean,
Oh,
I could, I guess I could share a little bit with you outside
eh,
of this. I don't know if you'd
yeah,
put it up later or something like that.
of course. Yeah, absolutely. I can. Yeah, for sure. Anything that you'd like to share, um, I can get that and can share it if you'd like me to with
Yeah,
folks.
your viewers might find it interesting. So
Oh yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Thank you. That would be
Mhm.
amazing.
Mhm.
Um, and a couple last questions here, and then we're going to go ahead and start to wrap up. Were you able to spend any time with Kevin Williamson or Caitlin in any of this, or were they kind of offset the whole time, or did they come every now
Uh,
and then, or just
uh,
curious?
Caitlin was around quite a bit.
Mhm.
Kevin was there. There were.
Okay.
I feel like there were some things with the location that required some script changes. So he
Ah,
was a very important part of that, and that's probably
okay.
something that's better addressed with John, our director.
Sure, sure.
Things that conversations that I probably wasn't a part of.
Yeah, no
Mhm.
worries. I was,
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
was curious, if
mhm,
you had any interactions with them or not. I was just, yeah.
yeah.
No, that's good.
Mhm.
And I'll ask you this: what would you say was your looking back on Sick was your personal highlight of the film? Like if you were to say this thing here, that was my favorite, whatever
Mhm.
adjective you want to put of the movie, or was there one, or is it all the
Wow.
same
I mean,
level?
there's a lot of action in that.
Yeah.
So, every step of the way when we checked off a scene as being done and it went well, I was delighted. And now we move on to the next thing. The stair fall when the girls run up the stairs and then they push the attacker down the stairs. That was a gnarly stair fall. First of all, the
Ooh.
stairs were narrow and very steep. And um, that was a we call that a chili winder. That was one of those where I could have really wadded Chris up with that one, but he took it and he took the hit. Um,
Oh.
the high fall off the roof. Nicolette, uh, who was Beth's double, did a great job with that.
Mhm.
Fire burn, the fights, the high fall, the water work. I mean, I had the most awesome marine crew that we brought in, that
Nice.
came in, and we built that raft specifically
Mhm.
so that my marine crew could control it from underneath and get those shots.
That's a great
Yeah.
scene, and it's original, something very original and unique, and I like that
Mhm.
about that, where, you've got the knife coming up and she's trying to dodge it, and it's it's really creepy, honestly, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was super great, super done, super well done, I mean,
Yeah.
um,
Not overdone, but just
no,
great. Yeah.
that's right,
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah. Hmm.
Wow. All right. Well, listen, this has been an amazing time, and I do want to ask one what I always like to give as my last question, and it's more of a general question, and it's what advice would you give someone who may be watching this that wants to be a stunt performer or they want to be in the business? Do you have any advice you could give them now that maybe you would have given yourself, going back in time or something, that may be helpful for them?
Well, you have to have an incredible skill set. Um, and, most stunt performers come from a background of excellence in it, at least one thing, if not multiple things.
Okay.
And so it's all about training, and it's all about, you know, just having that physical prowess and the brain that goes with it, to you know, to execute these things and to be a good player, to be an artist about it. You know, there are people who are just do a stunt, and then there are people who are performers. And my advice to people is be a performer. Think of it as a theatrical performance, what you're doing. You're not just executing some physical moves. You're creating a character.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great advice. Because you're right. It's like you're communicating, you're acting just as much as anybody else with how you do your stunts and your body and it's really a great point you brought up.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to be able to do things a little bit messy. Like everything can't be super clean if you're, you know, if you're doing things, you know, otherwise it's like you think you're watching the Olympic gymnastics. So yeah. And which some movies call for that. But sometimes you just gotta be able to be messy about it. So
yeah. I love it. I love it. It's great advice. Thank you for that. And I know that you have an Instagram that people can follow you at. And I'm going to put that in the chat right now for folks so that you can click, guys. Here is Eliza's Instagram. Go follow her. Check out her Instagram.
I don't always post very much work stuff. Sometimes if I do post something, it's very after the fact because we're quite often under a non-disclosure agreement.
Sure.
So I don't put a lot of my work up there, but you can kind of get the gist sometimes of what I'm doing, and it's I'll be honest, my Instagram is kind of about me having fun. And
hey, that's okay. We can. I mean, you know, we can have fun vicariously through you. And I love that. So everyone in the chat, in the replay who watch this, you know, in the next days, weeks, months, years, whatever, please go and follow Eliza on Instagram there. Because as you can see, she's an amazing person, so down to earth and willing to share her experiences with us. And Eliza, I want to tell you how much I thank you for this tonight, for this gift of you coming to be with us. This has been wonderful.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Stephen, and thank you to your viewers for supporting what we do.
Oh, you're very welcome. And on behalf of all of them, we can say you're welcome. Keep it up. Don't stop. We love it. We absolutely love it.
Okay.
All right. Now, Eliza, you just hang tight and I'll meet you backstage.
Okay.
So in just a second.
Okay.
But for everyone else in the chat, we're going to say good night. Thank you for your super chats and your questions. And I will see all of you back here at about at 8 o'clock Central Time for Halloween Fest, starting with Halloween 3. We're going to watch tonight at 8 o'clock. So I'll see you guys back here in about 20 minutes. Until then, take care, guys, and I'll see you then. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Hey, you have been watching Craven Something Scary. This is Lee Waddell, the original Ghostface, thanking you for stopping by and checking it out.